Hello and welcome. My guest today is Lucy Bassli, attorney and an author. Over 13 years at Microsoft as Assistant General Counsel for Legal Operations and Contracting, she built one of the first managed services partnerships between a corporation and a law firm, and then became the first head of legal operations at Snowflake before founding her own firm, InnoLaw Group. She's written multiple books on legal innovation and contract management, teaches legal ops at Suffolk Law, and, in her own words, loves messy contracting processes. And this is something that we will talk about today. Lucy, welcome to the Growth Switch.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here. So many good topics already you've kind of hinted to. I can't wait.
Lots to dig in.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell us a little bit about how your career got started throughout those different chapters that you had, and maybe some of the lessons that you pick from every chapter to carry with you throughout your career.
Absolutely. I think it started as a very, I'm going to call it a very standard, very typical career path. Certainly back, kind of in my day, my generation. I finished law school and I actually already had a job. So standard, but maybe not for the bulk of graduates. But I was fortunate, and I fell within that group that was recruited during law school. So I had a job. I had a job with the world's biggest law firm at the time, Baker McKenzie, and it was great. It made for a very relaxing third year of law school, I will say. Um, it's a weird, I didn't know anything about law school when I went to it in terms of how, first of all, how law school works or how people get jobs. I thought it was, you finish school, you have a resume, and then you send it to a million places and hope for a job. And then I discovered this whole kind of on campus recruiting experience. So that was already a first, I would say, big lesson, even kind of pre career. My favorite story that I will tell on that one and my lesson learned is I was invited to an open house by one of the firms. At that point in my life, I only knew of open houses as what people do when they sell a house, like their actual personal home. So I got this lovely card put in my, I think it was like my mailbox at the law school, inviting me to an open house. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, sure. So I went to that. Actually, my husband drove me, and he was in our little old car downtown in Houston, Texas, which at night in Houston, Texas back then was not a fabulous place to hang out. I was like, okay, well, I don't know how long I'm gonna be, so I'm gonna go, and you hang out here. I don't think we even had cell phones yet, so I was like, I'll be down in an hour to check in, something like that.
Mhm.
And I kind of go up this super tall building, and it's not like I haven't seen, I've been in the big city and all, but just like going in and being an invitee was very new for me. And so when the doors opened to the elevator, there were already people there, with cocktail food trays, and I kind of feel like I stepped into a different world. I was like, what's happening here? And then for the next, whatever, a couple of hours, there was this orchestrated dance around the room where the partners and the lawyers of this firm would kind of walk to each of us, and there was at least a dozen people just like me, but they were all dressed in their suits. They were like their interview suits. I did not. I had like my grown-up clothes, but I definitely did
Mhm.
not think of this as an interview. But apparently it was. I think everything is an interview. That was my lesson learned. Is wow.
Mhm.
Anytime you are engaging and interacting with people who could potentially be an employer, you better think of that as an interview. So that was new for me, right? They're offering me drinks and snacks, and I thought, are you kidding? You're offering me? I was the waitress in college. Should I carry the tray? So it was a aha moment. But that's just my little lesson learned. Um, After law school, I ended up in Seattle, not by my own choice, and it's the one city that Baker and McKenzie does not have an office in. So my husband's job, uh, fresh out of school, brought us here, and I found myself in a city with no job, with no firm, no connections, and realizing, oh, this is actually now becoming what I thought law school was going to be. I have a JD, and now I need to
Mhm.
send resumes, and it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. You cannot get into a big firm that way. And I realized, oh, what have we done? Through some of the connections I made during my summer clerkship during law school, I found somebody who is a partner in commercial bankruptcy, not anything I touched, never touched bankruptcy code in law school, but he's all I had. And he introduced me to all of his peers at all the big firms and a couple of the small boutiques, the really kind of specialized commercial bankruptcy boutiques, which dealt with very big, corporate filings, corporate bankruptcies, not personal bankruptcies. And so, long story short, I ended up in a bankruptcy boutique, a teeny tiny shop of one kind of main owner, two kind of mid-level associates, and then me. 3 minutes out of law school, joining to become a bankruptcy lawyer. So, lesson two. The lesson from that chapter is you can learn anything when you're eager and hungry. And I did. I had to learn what does it mean to do bankruptcy, filing. I had a fantastic kind of the two other associates that were there were fantastic. One really took me, kind of under his wing and showed me the ropes, gave me some templates. Here's what you do. Here's what you say. That was, incredible. There is where I started to do some work for Microsoft as a creditor. So Microsoft was a creditor during the early 2000s in a lot of commercial bankruptcies. And my colleague there, one of those associates, went to another firm to expand that client's work, that work with Microsoft. And then I was lucky that he was able to recruit me there with him. And so that was my first step into the big firm life that I had originally signed up for with Baker McKenzie, but ended up going a different route. There I did work for Microsoft, got into doing some contract license agreements for Microsoft and really just expanded a little bit more of the kind of work and stepped out of bankruptcy and kind of got into what I really did love, which was commercial transactions work. Mm-hmm. And the lesson I learned here was that law firm business is intense. The business of making money at a law firm is intense, and I felt like it was in direct contradiction with how I work, which is efficiently. I like to do the fastest job I can to get to the outcome and the end result, and that is not rewarded in a law firm billing model, because the more you bill, the more you make. The more you make, the higher you grow and quicker you grow in the firm. Granted, I was only there for about 2 years because I very quickly realized, wow, that's just contrary to how I work. If I'm done reviewing the memo, I'm done reviewing the memo. Why would I have to read it again so I can charge another 0.5 or 0.6 because that's better, for the business, but is that really what the client needs? Not that I was ever coached that way, but it was pretty clear that the more you bill, the better you do. So I had the opportunity to interview at Microsoft. Again, the same colleague of mine had jumped over to Microsoft. I was like, that's what I want. Yay. And so helped open some doors and got me an interview. And I ended up then going in-house to Microsoft. And that is really where my love for the work really, I think, blossomed and began. I got to experiment with how I worked. I had supportive managers, and they let me kind of rethink things and do things differently. And that's what I did. And so during my time at Microsoft, I really got into being able to be more efficient and just really change how we work. So I stopped doing contracts the way we always had and really transformed things by working really closely with our business counterparts and really being part of the business, which is what I love about being in-house. So, the lesson I learned there, if you're given a platform and you're given the freedom to experiment, take it. Don't ask for permission. Don't ask, is it okay? Or how should I do this? If you see a better way of doing things and you're in a supportive environment with a supportive manager, absolutely do it. That is your opportunity and your chance to do what you like and what you're destined. Like if it looks logical and you want to do it that way, do it. Don't wait, for somebody to tell you or direct you. So that was fantastic for me. And I was really lucky, and I got to do that for 13, most of which were incredible years until things changed and it was time to go. So that's my long story.
Amazing number of lessons there. And probably the thread through all those different experiences is that, how it all started is that everything is an interview, and how you build those connections allowed you to open the doors and take the next step and the next step and find something that suits your work style and made you happy because of those connections you made.
for
And
sure.
I think this is also, I have a bias in that subject, but I think this is why it's so important for all professionals to put more effort into their networking, both in person and also online as well. Because if you are able to put the signals, what you want to, the type of work you want to do, your stance on whether you should work slower and build more, or if you want to be efficient and do better quality work, if you're able to communicate more, then you will attract the similar peers throughout your career, and you'll be better off.
It's interesting, Alex. You know, the word networking has weird feelings, just like the word
Hmm.
brand, personal brand. For me, it has weird feelings. And what I discovered, as long as you are authentic and you're doing it for the right reasons, then absolutely that it is your network becomes how you get jobs. It becomes how you get clients. Your network, your personal brand, what you're known for. Not because you're
Hmm.
trying to be the Kardashians, but
Hmm.
you want to have a reputation. It used to be called reputation, right? My reputation in the industry. It became personal brand with the rise of social media. But really, the core things are exactly still the same. You need to have a professional network that you work inside of, that you can trust, who can trust you, and you need to be authentic with who you are. So that word networking, when it's done, I think with intention and kind of master planning is where it starts
Hmm.
feeling cheesy. If you're networking because, hey, I need to grow the number of people that I can ask questions of, the number of people that I hope ask me questions of, the number of people I'd like to help them in their careers genuinely. I want to see them succeed and I want to offer them my help. I hope one day they would help me if I ever needed it. And it's a different, it can feel different. So I think people shy away from it, and I did for a really long time. Like, what networking? What a terrible verb. You know, if I'm speaking with
Hmm.
somebody I enjoy, great. That's all that matters. It's a good conversation, and I can walk away from it enjoying the conversation. If you want to call that networking or not, that's where it starts getting, like, let's not label it anything. Just remember that the people that you associate with in your career, they become critical. They are your career in many ways. Like that becomes, it almost becomes a natural redirection sometimes, job offers that come to you that you wouldn't seek out, opportunities that you didn't think of but that were somebody remembered you from. So it's interesting how it happens. I mean, I'm kind of
Hmm.
looking back now at my career going, wow,
Hmm.
if it wasn't for that person, this would have never happened. If it wasn't for that person, I would have never thought of this. If it wasn't for that. And it is this woven network of people. So yeah, very philosophical. Whoop, I don't know what happened there. Go back to real questions.
No, I think it's a worthwhile to have this detour to think about it. Have you ever read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight about how Nike came about?
Oh no, I've heard about this book. No, I need to add it to my list
It,
now that I'll have some more free time, hopefully.
it's a very interesting book because I feel Phil Knight was very honest about his story about basically from the creation of Nike to IPO and what happened. And one of the my takeaways in the story was how many times he got lucky and how many times just the right person at the right time made things possible. Because
That's
without it, the whole thing would have fallen apart 1,000 times.
that's exactly right. It's
So
always a combination of luck and timing. Well, and skills, I guess. And then maybe luck and timing are the same. It's like skill and then the universe. The luck, timing, people, but like things are out of your control. It's like what's in your control is your skill, your hard work, and then the stuff that's out of your control. And that just those when they intersect, that's when things happen. And that's a reality. So it's not fair to to think people are only super lucky, or the people are only just really smart hard workers. There, you have to have a little bit of both. You just have to.
100%. Well, also, there's a great deal of just being proactive because in your story as well, you weren't waiting for things to happen. You put yourself in this position where you could meet somebody, somebody could help you.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, I feel that younger lawyers are being very passive about it. Maybe
Yeah.
they ended up doing part of law they don't really enjoy, or they run into the same issue that you described, something that I, in my career as well, struggled with, trying to be more efficient at work, which basically punishes you for being efficient, which is
Yes.
just you cannot. I don't think you can have a long and successful and a healthy career if you don't agree with that position. And yet, this is the reality in the firm. If this is where you
It
work.
is. It's an unfortunate reality, and it's not a it's not because law firms are good or bad, or law firms that is the business model. When you are selling time, more time equals more money. That is in direct conflict with somebody who likes to spend minimal amount of time on work that isn't bringing significant value to clients. It's just it's a natural conflict, and that's without even passing judgment on whether that's the right model or not. It is what it is, right? It's a we keep hoping it'll change. I think there are certain types of work that really just shouldn't be billed by the hour. It just shouldn't. It does not make
Mhm.
sense, and yet we're still seeing it billed by the hour. And there's other work that, yeah, maybe it should, billed by the hour makes sense. So I, I think we're at the cusp of a change, hopefully, finally coming because of the explosion of AI. Not just the explosion of it; it's the the accessibility of it. I know that's
Mhm.
another. We'll get to that topic in a second. But anyway, it's yeah, that's how careers end up following like a riverbed, right? Sometimes you just you have to be flexible. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. You have to be flexible. You have to be okay with change. You have to be okay with taking some risk, or else you're just gonna be stuck.
Things I think things need to be moving. It's trying to resist the change is where there's a lot of friction, and it doesn't serve the lawyers, it doesn't serve the clients or the firm. So I think being the flexible and being to adopt is quite important. But you touched the subject of AI as well, and one of the interesting visuals I've seen on LinkedIn maybe a few weeks ago is a breakdown of how the law firms used to work and how they work currently. And most the way it was described in that post was that most of the work was 80% of the work was doing the work, then 20% was checking the work before presenting it to the client. With AI, that bar got a lot more new sections where
Okay.
maybe 20% is instructing AI to do work. And then on top of that, it's the strategy behind it, it's rechecking and doing other things. So while some of the functions could be delegated to AI, to make sure it's a good service, there's still a lot of involvement and other activities that go with it. So when we are talking about different, whether it's how we build the clients as a law firm or how we do work, what are some of the trends that you personally see in the way how the behind the scenes change for legal industry?
So everybody's opining on this, like any of us know. We're living through a complete transformation and evolution right now. So pretending any of us know how really this is going to affect legal is a little I don't know, it's a little too soon to tell yet at this point, but there's no doubt it will affect the industry. There is no doubt. I want to answer your question. I want to answer a slightly different question, actually.
Mhm.
I don't want to yet talk about how the practice of law is changing, and how law firms, are working differently with AI. What I want to actually think about and offer a thesis is that the
Mhm.
work that's going to be coming to lawyers, whether at a law firm or even inside of corporate departments, is going to look different because the business owners or clients are going to self-serve their own legal needs
Mhm.
outside of coming to the lawyers. So before we even think about, oh, how is the lawyers going to use the tools different and better, and all of that, which is worthy of conversation, I have a very strong suspicion that the business,
Mhm.
they're already doing it. They have access now to super, super powerful information, super powerful um, intelligence that can mimic a lot of what lawyers are doing today, and have lawyers have been doing for the last several decades. Meaning now they are, I think, going to feel much more confident avoiding legal altogether, going to legal with their own preconceived opinions and saying, I think this is right. Can you take a quick look? So they already have in
Mhm.
their mind, if they're going to a law firm, I'm already telling you, law firm, don't expect to spend 20 hours on this. I said specifically quick look because I already ran
Mhm.
it through Claude, Gemini, blah, 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 listed wherever they live. Claude right now really seems to be kind of leaving some of the others behind, but whatever, they'll all catch up. Uh, so I think that's one macro shift that is being a little bit ignored because we're all in our little ivory towers. Oh, Lord, let's talk about lawyers, for lawyers, about lawyers, how we've always been that way as a profession, right? We have the practice of law. Nobody else can do that. That's going to be pressure tested yet again. It already started when LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer, right? All of those started. That kind of like first generation of legal automation,
Mhm.
legal services automation, I should say. And now it's blown completely past that. So that to me is the much more important question. What's the work that's actually even going to be expected of the legal? If legal is supposed to be serving clients, we're here to serve a business goal, a purpose. Are the business owners going to say, "Great, you know what? Actually, I don't need you anymore. And you know what? I am a business owner that is smart enough to appreciate the risks that I am taking, appreciate that I may not be getting the most perfect advice from my robot friend here, but that's
Mhm.
good enough for me." That's no different than the decisions they've made 50 years ago when CFOs decided to call a law firm or not. They could have not. Very smart CFOs build businesses, or
Mhm.
CEOs build businesses without ever talking to a lawyer for decades until maybe at some point they needed one. So that dial has moved significantly where people are going to feel much more empowered and enabled to make their own decisions without even going to a legal professional. That to me is a super interesting question. Then it begs the question, okay, well, if they, when they do come to you now, what they come with is going to look very different. They're going to come with pre-assessed work. They're going to come with thoughtful opinions. They're going to come with their
Mhm.
own analysis. They're also going to come with work that they're going to expect you to do much faster because of all that pre-work. Or they're going to only come now to lawyers for the work that really is beyond their capability to comprehend together with the AI tools, which is okay. That's still where we're going to really need very deeply thinking and analytical legal counsel and legal advisors. But I think the days of recurring transaction level work,
Mhm.
many contracts, many immigration applications, many forms, right? Clinical test forms, just that kind of recurring templatized work, or what should be templatized, is going to skip over all the practices I grew up on for 20 years. Let's create templates, let's create playbooks, let's create guides for how to negotiate. Let's do all these things to make the existing processes smoother. I think the process is going to explode. And I
Mhm.
think the business is going to operate much more independently, and legal's only going to be left to serve at the very highest level of advisory work, or as a double checker, confirmer, reviewer of pre-created work already. That's going to shake up, I think, us
That's
more than.
such an interesting take, and interesting enough, it mirrors what we see happening in marketing and advertising world as well. The big, from what I see, the big shift is happening is the middle is going away. So you either have the expectation that clients come for very specific service, they want it cheaply, they want it fast because they have the whole infrastructure and everything for the other aspects, or they want everything, but they don't want to pay big agency fees. They say, now that you have those tools, we want everything, and we also want it faster and cheaper and more streamlined. And that causes many companies in the space to adjust. It changes the dynamic of that relationship. But I think there's a critical element from that model that's currently missing, and it's missing from how many law firms did business. Many law firms historically has been very reactionary with their clients. Clients has a problem, client brings the problem to the law firm, we try and help them. I feel the piece that's missing is the consulting before the problem arises. It's that what I don't know that I should be protecting my business against. And this is why I'm talking to the law firm, because the law firm can tell me those things that I don't even know to go and ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude.
I
And
see what
many
you mean. So
firms, many firms never offer that piece.
right. So you're talking about really strategic business advisory service? Like what is the nature of your business? What are you trying to accomplish? I will push back to say you don't need to know what you don't know anymore to go to AI and ask exactly that. What
Mhm.
do I not know about running this kind of a business? What should I consider? Are they going to get a 100% answer? No, but guess what? Depending on what lawyer they go to, they're not going to get a 100% answer either. I think our approach to the AI outputs and how quick so many lawyers are to call it garbage and it's not reliable, it's not trustworthy, they don't have the same standard for their own peers. Two lawyers can review
Mhm.
the exact same contract and have two very different approaches to it, both equally correct. There's no
Mhm.
right and wrong in a lot of the legal work we do. And yet, when we deal with AI, we kind of we want it to be as smart as the humans. We want it to be as predictable as traditional technology, zeros and ones. Same answer every time. I know exactly how it's going to operate. You can't have both, and they're not. They have to somehow. We have to appreciate that. We have to appreciate that what we're dealing with is a
Mhm.
hybrid of a new resource, just like a new hire, a new smart, eager young attorney, and technology that is somewhat predictable, but no, not how it was before, right? So I think you're right in that there is a high level of business advisory that needs to happen. Um, I think most companies don't go to lawyers for that anyway. They see it as throwing away money, and they come when there's a problem, and that's exactly your point. It's a reactionary
Mhm.
business. So I just think the needs for legal services are going to fundamentally shift. They just are.
Do you think that's why maybe smaller and mid-sized law firms will have an advantage going forward because they can be more agile and more specialists,
I
just
think
faster and
so. I think there's room for them for sure. There's always going to be the top tier, fanciest firms. The question is, what is the work they're going to be doing? So yes, mid-sized firms can certainly come in and take some of that advantage because they're more agile, because they can work with different resources better. They don't have the strict kind of lockstep growth model for their associates for sure. So there's a world of opportunity right now, no matter what. I think that's probably the best way to think about it. Whether you're a small firm, a mid firm, the big firms, the question is who's going to seize it in the way that is still profitable to their business and drives the kind of value that customers want, because clients want. They're changing the definition of kind of client needs is just it's evolving underneath our feet right now, and I just don't know who's ahead of that curve. I'm not sure anybody really is yet.
everything is changing at a much faster pace than what we're used to. You know,
Absolutely.
last decades and decade before. So we can, like you said, we can opine on the matter, but we'll see what happens. But I want to talk a little bit about messy contracting
Yeah,
processes. Tell me how you work around that subject. You know,
sure.
evolves what you see in practice. What are the things that
Yeah.
um, you want to advise on going forward?
So, I mean, here's the thing with contracting. It's the lifeline of every business. It's at the core of every business. Everybody has contracts, and nobody's figured out how to do them perfectly. There is no perfect way. Contracts are always messy, and contracts are always a painful part of a business operation. I don't know what it is about why we haven't been able to fix this or solve it. I think there's been a lot of progress, and certainly there are companies who do better than others, and all of that. But it is still painful, and I think the reality is that when you have a piece of paper with the freedom to put any words on it that you want, contracting can't ever be controlled because you have people putting in words into papers and then other
Mhm.
people on the other side agreeing to those words. There's no boundaries, there's no box, there are no rules. You and I can contract for whatever we want, provided it's within legal limits. And those are very, very few. So
Mhm.
that's the reality. That's why contracting is messy. It is people touching words on paper and then sending around that paper back and forth. And so it can't be neat. Now, we have tried to bring in automation to create the guardrails, to put the box in, to create rules and to create process. When those tools are implemented properly, with the right change management, with the right training, they're designed to work within the process of the company. The company has cleaned up their process and it is done as best as possible. Even in those scenarios, there will be humans who will go outside the tool. There will be humans who will still go back to a white piece of paper and put words on that piece of paper and email it to the other side, even though the tool exists. Unlike law firms where you can control the passage of information and the creation of documents, in-house lawyers don't live in that kind of a controlled environment. As many, some actually wish for it. They seek the days of their law firm days when they couldn't open a Word document without it pre-populating, the matter number, things like that, and storing it. But that's just not the reality in corporate in companies. So it comes down to the most boring thing I will say in today's discussion, and that I've been saying for 20 years: people and processes. That's the problem with contracting. It is not whether you have the right tool, the wrong tool, the best tool, the latest tool. If you don't have a good, clean, explainable process, one that you can explain, not from stories of like, oh, I think, and this is, but a clean, written out process that the company understands and can explain, and it works for the business. You can't have a process on paper that nobody follows because it is completely irrational to how business gets done. But if you have something real and it is clean and it is smooth, and then you have technology enable it, that is your hope for success. The reason contracting is messy, though, and continues to be, it's people and process. Nobody wants to take the time to redo processes because it's not sexy. You can't get the attention of the CFO or the CEO if it's not a cool tech project. Tech gets attention, tech gets money. The problem is the operations aren't ready for the tech. The workflows, the processes aren't ready. So to tackle it, you have to be methodical, you have to be structured, you have to be organized. If you think you're going to tackle messy contracting by buying a tool, that's just not an answer. It's just not an answer. That's the only thing I can tell you. You're destined for failure if your approach is, we're going to make contracting better because I'm going to buy a new CLM system. That's only one small piece of the puzzle. That's the core issue that we see over and over and over, and it's not changing. AI now is faster at showing benefits than prior technology evolutions, right? All those prior technologies took a really long time until you can see value. Certainly with AI, you're going to see faster value, faster outputs, but it also is not a magic button. And if you don't know who's using it, how they're using it, where it fits into your overall business workflow, because contracts are just a piece of a business workflow, you're still going to be disappointed. So that's contracting messy story. People and process is 99% of the problem in contract.
People and processes. There is a very clear parallel with just using AI in general, because context is so important, and context requires boring work of putting those processes and being very clear of how we're doing things, why we're doing it. And the companies that get the most out of their AI tools, they actually have effectively those instructions that's you can say it's like a little contract as well for AI, saying this is what we want you to do, this is the context, this is
That's right.
who we
It's a
have in the
deal.
company, this is the process.
That's right.
But most businesses don't do that, and this is where problems come with the inaccurate advice they're getting. One of the things that we see, for example, when we work on the marketing side of things with law firms and with other our clients, when we try to put in writing explanation of whether it's a new advertisement campaign or we're helping somebody to record a video, part of the process is getting our clients aligned on what they want to say or what they stand for. And it's always very interesting to see that two lawyers from the same organization could have worked together for 20 years and assume they understand each other the same way. Once they go through the exercise of actually committing to a script for video, suddenly you see like, oh, we actually see this issue differently, and there's a nuance here, and Absolutely. It forces them to align.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we spend so much time on, yeah, it's the unsexy work that I love, that we love doing in our team is that how do you get in there? How? We ask how like 20 times. Yeah, but how?
Hmm.
No, but how? But how does it get there? But how do they know to go there? But how do they know to use that form? But how do they, how, and until you get into that level of detail, and it's painful and it's not exciting. It's not nearly as exciting as saying, I'm going to go do a demo of this cool new tool.
Right.
There's no way around it. There's no way around it. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. And we just nobody we can't seem to learn this lesson. Everybody still wants a fast button. So look, AI is helping in some ways. It also can help extract some of that knowledge. It can look at some of your your prior work. It can follow your workflow and record it for you. So I mean, it's going to get easier to do the boring work. Sorry to call it that
Hmm.
boring work. It's my work, so I'm allowed to call it boring, but because I find it very exciting. But so there are now better tools to make the boring work a little bit faster and actually a little bit more fun. But it
Hmm.
still has to be done. You still have to do the pre work. You just have to.
Certainly. What's your opinion when we're thinking about the contracts and doing that work and being very careful, like you said, of the words we are putting on paper, especially when different ideas arise, and we have oftentimes tempted to say this is a unique situation, so it requires a unique set of words, even though we might have a well thought out process in place for just this very situation. Do you think less is more, or do you prefer to be as inclusive with just the frameworks of contracting as possible to try to capture different scenarios? Where do you land on the?
I'm an 80/20 person. I don't believe in trying to figure out every nuance. I don't believe in trying to create a process that works for every type of contract or a tool that's going to take care of every scenario. I think that is an absolute false goal. You can't have
Mhm,
that as a goal. You actually will never succeed. And I'm going to say never, even though you're never supposed to say never.
mhm,
It's not a successful target. So 80%. If you can get 80% of your messy contracts under control, that is an enormous win. If you can get 95% of your NDAs, so that's one type of
mhm,
contract, you can get 95% of your NDAs, never going into the legal department ever. But but only 5% touch legal. And when 5% touch legal, legal can turn around an NDA in 48 hours. That's a winning mission and strategy.
mhm.
And even that is hard to accomplish in a lot of companies. Or they just think too broadly. We want all our contracts to go through this tool, and we're going to have all our contracts do this, and all the business teams are going to work here, and all every time I hear all or every contract or all our contracts, I just know that there's not a realistic goal that's been established. You need to have a realistic
Mhm.
target. Lots of them, milestones, right? Get wins along the way, but trying to cover for every nuance and every scenario and every variation is it's an impossible goal.
You have to be directionally correct.
Yes,
If you get most of that, uh, that's the success metric. Not trying to be perfect, because that will just cause delays and
that's
will
right.
just make the business stagnate.
That's right. And it's not realistic. There is no perfect anything. There is no perfect contract. There's no perfect anything. So, but lawyers and our need for finding, remember we were trained, as you know, we're trained to find every possible thing that's wrong. What's a law school exam? That is the exam.
Mhm.
Find everything that can go wrong and now apply to the rule to it. Sure, that's rules that were made in 1850, fine. But that's a fun exercise for our brains. But
Mhm.
you're rewarded on spotting all the issues. Issue spotting as a concept is one I didn't hear of until I stepped into law school. But
Mhm.
issue spotting, that's a verb. That's an activity. I'm going to do some issue spotting now. So we get rewarded. It becomes a game. It's like it's gamified. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, yeah, I guess that could happen too. And I think that's just a terrible way to approach certainly in-house lawyering. In-house lawyers don't have that luxury. We don't have that time. The business is going to hate us if we have that approach. So 80/20 rule has to be.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's good advice. Lucy, tell me about the books. How did you get around, and what it did for your practice, for your business as well?
Sure, sure. So when I decided it was time to leave Microsoft, I had kind of established this back to network, but I've had this kind of people that would call me and ask me, "How do you do it there? You know, we heard you're doing interesting things. What did you do with your contracting problem?" And to be clear, accurate, the contracting I focused on at Microsoft was just procurement. And just indirect procurement because we were that huge that you can really divide up chunks. But indirect procurement, which is not like hardware, not Xbox, not that,
Hmm.
but buying services and buying technology, that was about $17 billion worth of spend annually
Hmm.
when I was there. And that was, eight years ago. So it was a sizable shift in what we tried to
Hmm.
do over the course of my time. And by the time I left, nowhere close to perfect, but a very different model and a different approach and more efficient than it was before. So when I was leaving, I didn't quite. I knew I wasn't going to get looking for another job. I knew I wanted to do something on my own and kind of be my own boss. And I had this like message to the world of lawyers needing to be more innovative, and that word became a buzzword around that time. But we had to think about doing things differently. So that was my first book, Simple Guide to Legal Innovation, and I published that with the American Bar Association. Um, Funny story that I love. I'm sure
Hmm.
they don't always love me telling this story, but it was their Center for Innovation. I think the Center for Legal Innovation is like a group within the American Bar Association. American Bar Association mostly caters to law firms. It's for law firm
Hmm.
lawyers, education programs, events. It's the biggest trade group for law firm lawyers. And their Center for Legal Innovation was the one that was sponsoring publishing my book. And our publishing agreement with them was, I don't know, 17, 18 pages. I can't remember how many pages, almost 20 pages that they sent to me and asked that I print it, sign it, and fax it
Hmm.
back. And I said, this book is about innovation. I'm going to just leave it at that. So it became a little bit of a joke between us because I thought I actually don't know how do I even find a fax machine. So that was fun. That was my first book, and that's really my plea to law firm lawyers, right? Thinking about how to be more innovative, telling through storytelling and kind of trying to inspire. Then the next two books, the next one was CLM Simplified, and that was self-published. I was already running my own business, and I thought, wow, why are people still not, why are people still struggling with how to make contracting better? And again, we know it's people and processes, but how do I help them think about it more methodically? And so that was CLM Simplified, kind of really breaking down what is the contracting life cycle. What are the different phases? How do you make improvements at the phases? How do you think about people, process, and tools and impacting change? And then the third book, it's a small little, it's really more like a handbook, and that is my Contracting Simplified. So that's now, we're not
Hmm.
talking about CLM, Contract Lifecycle Management. We're really stepping back and thinking about contracting as an enterprise program, thinking about contracting as a program, not just a bunch of
Hmm.
processes that are all a big mess, and then maybe you'll do a project to buy tech or a project to fix templates or a project to create playbooks. Those are projects. They start, they stop. Oftentimes they're forgotten. And treating it like a program is what I'm trying to message in this third book. Continuously improving, understanding who are the decision makers, who are the executives, how are we documenting big decisions and big changes. The technology gets so much attention, and that is just one smallish piece of contracting, transformation of contracting at the enterprise. So that was kind of a more of a this love story of thinking of thinking about it in a completely different way. And in there, I actually have a framework I've developed, and I'll be spending more time on really building out that framework. I think that's my next chapter of my personal book. So those are my books.
How once you publish the books, how did you go about making sure that they're seen, that they're in the hands of the right people?
Sure.
And what was the maybe the feedback that you received after
Yes, I
publishing
will
them?
say that I am terrible at this. I should not be giving anybody advice because I didn't do any of the right things. The right things are if you're going to self-publish on Amazon, you need to get as many Amazon reviews as quickly as possible the minute it's available. So smart people, and I know because I did this for other people in my network, reach out in advance. Here's an advance copy. I'd love to get your thoughts. When you get it from Amazon, if you buy it, either they buy it for you, but you have to be a verified buyer. There's all this thinking that needs to go
Steps.
into it if you want it to be a best-selling book. My goal was never to make the book a bestseller. Any of the books, my goal was to solidify my thoughts, my opinions, my approach in paper, and give somebody something to take away to read. So I really use it more as a professional calling card. It's my business card.
Mhm.
This is what I know. If you're not sure what I know or how I think about things, here it is. So I was terrible at using the books for any kind of an actual revenue stream or worrying about that at all. I wrote the books to enable and support the business. So maybe that, if I extrapolate from your question, how did then I use these books to support my business? Very much in the context of gifts. I would buy them for prospective customers. I would send them directly to their house if they gave me their address or whatever. That COVID changed things a little bit. I would bring books, with me to events. Would sign them, hand them out as gifts. I've had other scenarios where at an event, a bulk of my books were bought by the event host, and they would want to give them as gifts, to their prospective customers. So I kind of just use it as a really big business card more than anything else. Um, and a little bit of a stamp of, I don't want to say self-proclaimed authority, but self-proclaimed experience. I've learned this the hard way. Let me share with you the lessons learned. So I didn't do a lot of the things that people do when they write books for the purpose of having really popular books. I really wrote it as a tool to how I provide a service. It's a tool.
I think it's a great lesson, and some people do publish the books to get that, the sign of being Amazon bestseller. Even though, of course, any insider to that market knows that it's a little bit of a game, and you can gamify it and you can hack the system, so to speak. So, unfortunately, the term bestseller lost some of its
Yes.
historical credibility.
Yeah.
But as a tool, as like you said, as a business card, as a calling card, it's you haven't done that work, you having a clear view on what you do and haven't done the work, it certainly sets you apart. And this is why we also encourage more attorneys to go through the same experience, because if potential client is thinking about who they should work with, and one person they could be working is have their firm and they're published author, and they've done the work, and another person just says that we're really good and take us at our word,
Right.
well, we know which way the client will probably be leaning.
That's the hope. That was the hope. Yeah.
Certainly. Lucy, what's the big goal or project that you have for 2026 that you're working through the rest of the year?
Well, I just recently went through a big transition in our business, and I sold off some assets and transferred some of our key personnel to free up some of my own time, so that I can move away from running a business
Mhm.
full time to doing some more creative work. So for me, I would say that over the next 6 months, I am going to be a little bit more intentional about how I spend my time on this subject, and think about what that does mean for me. I think as far as projects go, I've got a couple of ideas. One is a passion project around women's retreats for intra and entrepreneurial women. So women that reach a certain phase in our careers where we start realizing there are very few of us and it gets really thin. Our network, back to network, gets
Mhm.
really, really thin. So creating a place that is an escape, a retreat, where we are not doing all the planning, we are not doing all the organizing, we are not in charge of everybody's backpacks, which a lot of us who have kids and and spouses still feel like we have to do that, and at the same time be able to have really interesting sharing conversations with peers, real peers, of where we are. That's one passion project I am exploring.
Mhm.
A different one is I would like to get one of those new electric VW minivans and go on a road trip and stop in major cities and do interviews with some of my favorite people in the network, in my network, on their thoughts on career trajectory, career planning, and AI and technology in the legal profession, and do my own traveling traveling show. So maybe something we can work on together, Alex, if you like.
That sounds like
Those are
a fun project for sure.
Yeah, I want to do something fun that energizes me, but that still contributes to the industry and that continues to be relevant. And I think right now, conversation is relevant. Human, real conversation, not AI generated slop, not content marketing for the sake of sending out more newsletters. I think being able to talk to people who are living and breathing through this change right now, it's providing a little sense of grounding and security where right now people are feeling very insecure. There's a lot of FOMO, there's a lot of concern about careers in legal.
Mm.
So I kind of feel like there's room for authentic conversation that is not self-serving because it's not a business. It's not a business. It's just a little fun pet project. So I don't know. I think one of those two I'll probably spend some time on, and then I'll be doing some actually some content and stuff with partners who need kind of expert, deeper
Mhm.
content. So I'll be doing some case studies with their clients where I'm interviewing customers and trying to, again, extrapolate what is really working and what isn't, and bring a little outside in, analysis. So that's more of regular work. The other two are Lucy's fun pet project. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now that I said it out loud and it's recorded, I feel a little bit accountable. So that's good. That's good.
We will take a note to send you a little pre-New Year message, with this clip to say that you need to update us on how it developed.
Oh no,
But
accountability.
I think that's a very great direction to go in. In marketing world, there is a saying that you should document, not create. To your
Yeah,
point, a lot of companies, even if they, firstly, more law firms should make content. So anybody trying to make more content, we already have to upload that.
yeah,
But unfortunately, many firms, they try to create the content just for the sake of, because that's what
that's the
marketing told
problem.
us. So we are trying to create, and it comes very generic, very synthetic. It doesn't really resonate. It's just process for the sake of process.
Yep,
But those conversations, whether it's experts interviewing each other and having a debate on the subject matter, or even somebody coming from a trial, sitting in front of the camera and saying, this is what happened and this is why it was important and those were the challenges.
yeah,
That's real stories and real content that's helpful to the peers and helpful to the clients as well.
yeah. That's what I'm hoping. So we'll see. Thanks so much though
Perfect.
for having me, letting me share my thoughts.
Lucy, it's been great having you, and we will make sure to include links to your company, to your books, and hopefully more people can find them.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you, Lucy, for coming. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.